All right, well, we have a quorum, so why don't we go ahead and get started? I will note that Superintendent Alisea, Council President Hudson, Calvin Corridors are all in attendance. Pat Bodie is excused, and we're still expecting Chuck and Larry Williams to be determined. That does constitute a quorum, right, Joe?
That is correct.
Okay, very good. All right, so I am not going to pull up the minutes. The board members should have received them in their packet, but we do have the minutes from the March 19, 2020 meeting. Seems like a lifetime ago, probably the last time many of us were in the council chambers. But I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second, Jaime.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, next up, and I just want to confirm that we are recording right now. I see that Evan had indicated that he would. So, Evan, if you could just confirm we are recording.
Yes, Mayor, we are.
Great, thank you. Okay, next up, we have a report from the Secretary. Joe.
Yes, good morning. With the recording and the live stream here, we are having the meeting pursuant to the governor's executive order. So we are in compliance with the open meetings law. And my only other report is over the last couple of weeks, we have received some correspondence regarding public improvement liens on several of the projects. I need to review those documents with the program manager, and I can report back before the next meeting on their status.
Okay.
That completes my report.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. And on behalf of the entire board, I just want to pass along our condolences for the loss of your mother. We're all thinking about you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, next up, we pulled down the agenda, but I know it's our program manager report. So I think I saw Chris on here.
I'm here, man.
Great, and I've got the I have the report summary up on the screen. Everybody see that? That's nod. Yep, very good. Okay, Chris, you're up.
Yep.
Very good. Just going through procurement, a fair amount to report here. Henniger, we now have a fully executed contract, and the contractor has mobilized to site to begin operations over there. Clarity Elms, we anticipate there's an award that you'll see as part of the action today to moving that forward. We did issue a letter of intent and hope to gain that award approval today. And we're going to move pretty quickly on that one to start the procurement on that side. The Fowler interior package, as it noted here, we received a single bid on the 26th. Unfortunately, that was in excess of what we had budgeted. So we're regrouped on that and looking to determine options on how to move that forward in terms of some revisions to the scope and then a rebid. So that's under review at the moment. Under the Danforth, we have bids due to this afternoon. We're anticipating good participation on that. So more to come on that one. And Blodgett site, we did receive 2 bids on the 26th for that one as well within our budget. And we'll be looking to make an award for that in May at the May meeting for action. I think just as a side note, just to note that we're in terms of procurement, we're significantly through the procurement, with the exception of we have an additional package that we may bid at Corcoran for site, and then this Fowler interior rebid. But we are through the procurement phase by and large, so that's a nice milestone to be there on that. Under project financing and approvals, we have some action in front of the board today with respect to modifying some building budgets, and that process is related to us just, as we've indicated over the past several months, analyzing where we stand in terms of realized cost, and then being able to best utilize remaining funds. In this case, for an award at Berry Elms, there were several alternates that we would like to we are adjusting our budgets accordingly to make those.
Chris, if I could just stop you there, we do have one person that is not on mute that for whatever reason, I'm not able to mute. So if everyone could just make sure they're on mute. Yep, I got it. Okay, thanks. Go ahead, Chris.
No worries. And then we do have one action in front of you today for Ed Smith to increase the not to exceed amount. We're at the end here of trying to resolve outstanding change conditions, and we need to amplify that not to exceed amount slightly to bring that to closure. Under design status, I don't have anything to report really here. We're moving through how to best identify some additional potential work scopes as we start to realize where we are on the budget as a whole. Under construction update, we're poised at all the buildings in anticipation of the governor's determination on Friday. In light of that, we have a lot of work scopes that we're hoping we could potentially get started early on. So we're poised for that. Beyond that, we're continuing to move forward on the projects that we have and taking on work that we can take on that would still enable the school to reopen if in fact they had to. So making good progress in all areas on those. And then under constraints and critical issues, I guess the one that I'd want to, well, the one that takes up the most amount of real estate here in terms of the update is the COVID update. As we know, there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding that, but we have received some correspondence from contractors with respect to notices, which we've reviewed with council, both Joe and outside council, and have developed response letters to items that we have received. And in terms of work on site, obviously operating within the executive directives that we received from the governor in terms of how we operate. I think the teams have done a nice job with signing buildings, and we've coordinated direction of travel within the building so that we mitigate the interaction between folks. The use of masks, we have a temperature screening program that we put into place to take temperatures on workers as they enter the site. So that we're hoping that we can, just a precautionary means, it's not a mandatory thing, but it was a program that we put in place to hopefully be preventative to that end. That's pretty much covers where we are. It's just a note under the project cost to date. We're very close to that 50% mark in terms of work in place and in terms of percentage complete.
Chris, just looking at your COVID update here. So understanding that there's still some unknowns here. Do you have any sense or any worrisome areas where you think we may have been impacted or may still be impacted, whether it be supply chain or ongoing labor constraints otherwise?
I don't have anything project specific at the moment to point to. The concerns are, I think some of these will feel as we move forward. A lot of the supply chain stuff with factories shut down and causing an interruption in that production chain. I don't have anything that's super project specific at the moment, but what we've asked all the teams to do is, if we do identify something, we have a list that's being compiled, areas of concern, and then we also, Turner as a national level is tracking a supply chain forecast with impacts to factories. So if we have any of those products on the job, we're asking that the manufacturers, kind of assure us that we've still got a line in production and just monitoring. So I do anticipate that we do know that there's been some restrictions about stuff that's coming in across borders. So if we have stuff coming from overseas or Canada or Mexico, we know that that's already been problematic, and we'll probably feel some effect of it, but we're monitoring at the moment. And what we've asked contractors to do is to let us know as soon as they do know something so that we can get our arms around what it is and how to recover.
Mr. Mayor, can I piggyback on that question?
Sure thing.
Okay, because Chris, what I want to know is, you talked about the parts in the supply chain, but we already have an issue on some of our projects when it comes to bids. Like you said, we received one bid that was not in the range. Do you think that because countrywide, we're going to be opening up again everything, that we're going to have a shortage of labor?
I think labor is definitely an issue for this summer, and it was an issue for this summer prior to the whole COVID concerns. There's a lot of work planned. How that plays out now with respect to COVID in terms of projects that move forward and projects that don't, I think will be a story to unfold here a little bit. But we knew that labor was going to be an area of focus, like it's for the summer prior to COVID. We have seen evidence of some projects being suspended. I guess time will tell.
Because what's the slightly up?
I'm sorry, say again.
What's the slightly up amount to not to exceed?
I'm sorry, Helen. I'm not.
Said that it was up slightly with Elms, I do believe. And if that's the case, what was the amount that it was not to exceed?
I'm sorry, the up with Clary, with Clary, we increased the budget to be able to award some additional alternates.
Not to exceed what amount though?
We've increased Clary Elms as a combination increase of 400 at Elms and 680,000 at Clary. So a combination of basically 1.1.
Okay.
We bid that as a single job, the renovation on both buildings. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions for Chris?
Chris, you mentioned with the COVID and working with making sure all the rules and regulations are for these folks to be safe. Also, though, some of us have been notified that some of the contractors haven't been paid by some of the subs. There's one in particular out of Oswego that there was concerns. Do we know of those issues? Those folks have been paid. Some of them were minority contractors.
Yeah, and Joe mentioned that at the onset that we received some liens under which the contractor has responded by producing a bond to satisfy the lien. That does not necessarily impact payment. If they produce the bond to satisfy the lien, then payment can continue to the contractor. Does that answer your question?
Hi, everyone. It's Lamont. I might be able to speak to that about the minority businesses a little more clear. You're probably talking about Eli Smith. What happened with him is he has a contract with PAC that says he's supposed to get paid at a faster time. I think it's around like 2 weeks or something like that. And so he was having trouble getting his payment at that time that they agreed upon within their contract, but it doesn't coincide with our guidelines as far as getting paid after the pay app is approved. So we was able to help him get paid, long story short, but that was the issue.
Lamont, is this the issue that they've been in disagreement about for a long time, or is this a new issue between them?
A little bit of both, but it was a new issue. Yeah, it was dealing with their payment for some work they just previously did within a month.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Chris?
So Lamont, it's been resolved then?
Yes, at this point in time, but they do go back and forth. So I wouldn't be surprised if something else comes up with them. It's kind of been that way, but that particular issue has been resolved.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, thanks, Chris.
You're welcome.
All right, back to the agenda. Looks like we are up to our financial statements report. So I will see if I can pull up some of those documents. What are we starting with here? Anybody want to help me out?
Yeah, we're going to start on page 5.
Of the financial statements.
That's correct. Statement of net position.
I think that's this one here.
Okay, if everybody wants to follow along with me. Currently, for the month of February, the only highlights we had were vendor payments that were approved in January but are reflected in February as February expenses. And also we had investment income. So at the end of February, the JSCB fund has a total of $86,711,000 of phase 1 and phase 2 cash. Compared to the January statement, the cash decreased by 4.9 million. And due to the interest income of $94,000, along with the vendor payments of 5 million that were approved in January and paid in February. So also included are the capital assets of $223 million, which represents all the activity for closed projects up to 6/30/19. Also, we have the anticipation note payable of 23 million, along with our current liabilities of bonds payable, giving us a total liabilities of $299.8 million, which leaves us with a total net position at the end of February of $9.9 million. I'm going to move on to page 6, and that's our statement of sources and expenditures. There was no activity in the month of February for phase 1. All the amounts that you see there are amounts that were reported in previous months. And in phase 2, the only changes were the earnings on investments, an increase of $96,000, which brings us to a current year total of $1.2 million in earnings on investments. The capital outlay is currently at $66 million for current year activity, and that did increase. The capital outlay did increase by $5 million from January. I'm going to move on to page 7, and that is our cash flow report. Now, our current cash flow does show all the activity from July to February, and you can see all the things that I just mentioned are in the February column, the $94,000 in investment income, along with the $5 million in capital outlay, which gives us a total of $86.7 million in cash at the end of February. You'll also notice in projecting out from March to June, you can see there are our March totals for the borrowing that we had. And surprisingly enough, we're getting close to the end of the fiscal year, which is, I don't know if it's exciting, if it's exciting or if that's, I guess it's exciting. Yes, we're progressing.
We don't know either, Donna.
So that gives us a total of $144.7 million that we're expecting at the end of this fiscal year. And on page 8, that's going to be our revenue and expense inception to date report. And currently there are no changes for phase 1 projects. We have a total sources of $142.9 million, and total expenditures are at 141.6. And our phase 2 projects, our total sources is at $216.4 million. And our total expenditures to date is $134.7 million. So that concludes my report. Does anybody have any questions?
Great. Thank you, Donna. Questions?
No, I guess that's it.
Okay. Thank you. right. Moving on, next up, we have our resolutions. So, Joe, you want to walk us through them?
Yes, Mayor, and I would suggest, because of the setup, that we do a roll call vote
Sure thing.
each item. So beginning, and I don't know if Mr. Murray, who has joined us or not. I haven't seen him.
Don't believe so.
Okay. So beginning with resolution number 25, which would be the monthly payment to Landon and Ryan.
I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor. We'll go one by one. Calvin?
Aye.
Jaime?
Yes.
Helen?
Yes.
Aye as well. That's approved unanimously. Does that work for you, Joe?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, next.
Resolution number 26 would be the monthly payment to the program manager.
So move.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, bring it to a vote. Calvin?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Helen?
Yes.
I am an aye. Approved unanimously. Next up.
Yes, resolution number 27 would be the monthly payments to our tranche 1 contractors.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Calvin?
Aye.
Jaime?
Yes.
Helen?
Yes.
I'm aye. Approved unanimously. Next.
Resolution number 28 would be the monthly payments for our tranche 2 contractors.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor. Calvin?
Aye.
Jaime?
Yes.
Helen?
Yes.
I'm an aye. Approved unanimously.
Resolution number 29 would be an amendment to the J.D. Taylor contract for the Ed Smith School to increase the amount of contingency funding by $250,000.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor. Calvin?
Aye.
Jaime?
Yes.
Helen?
Yes.
I'm also an aye. No one opposed. Approved unanimously.
Yes, resolution number 30 is an amendment to the JSCB comprehensive plan. It was adopted first by the Board of Education, as is the normal process, and it is designed to reallocate funding from the Grant Middle School and Huntington Pre-K 8 to Clary Middle School and the Elms Middle School.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor. Calvin?
Aye.
Jaime?
Yes.
Helen?
Yes.
I'm an aye. No one opposed. Approved unanimously.
Thank you. The final resolution, number 31, will be an award of a prime contract to Huber Brewer Construction for the combined Clary Middle School and Elms Middle School projects. This is a little different from our previous awards in that because of the timing, we are awarding it with several contingencies, namely that they have to provide their performance and labor bonds, adequate insurance, and an acceptable diversification plan. We felt in the interest of the schedule, it was recommended that the board could award the contract with these contingencies. And of course, if there's a problem, we'll report back to the board before executing the contract.
So move.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call. Calvin?
Aye.
Jaime?
Yes.
Helen?
Yes.
I too am an aye. Approved unanimously. Any
That completes
additional
the
business to come before the board?
I have a question that popped up in my head and I don't know who can answer it for me. Okay, so we know that with the cuts coming down from the state, will that affect the JSCB funding?
So Sandy's going to answer that.
Good morning, President Hudson. We don't know at this point. We are hoping to know in the next few weeks the impact on building aid. What we have for the budget for next year includes the assumption that we will get the early aid waivers approved for both Corcoran and Nottingham. If that happens for next year, we have adequate building aid to cover debt service increases. Beyond that, we're not sure. So over the next few weeks, I hope to have a more solid answer on that for you. The governor is talking about reducing total state aid, which does include building aid. So we're expecting to have more specifics in the next few weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Good question, Helen. Thank you. And thanks, Suzanne. Anything else? Okay, I want to thank everybody for being flexible and congratulate you all on completing our first virtual JSCB meeting. Probably won't be our last, but hopefully before long we'll all be back together again. So take care of yourselves, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Take care of yourselves.
Yep.